The day the sirens did not sing. The first sign that something was wrong in Derry was not a scream. It was the absence of one. On a Tuesday morning in late October, when the leaves had gone the color of old bruises and the Penobscot River moved like thickened blood, a school bus skidded off Old Cape Road and tipped sideways into a shallow ditch. 23 children were inside. The driver broke his wrist. 2 kids hit their heads hard enough to see stars. No one cried. They climbed out quietly, as if participating in a fire drill they had rehearsed too many times. A girl with a split lip dabbed at it with her sleeve and smiled dreamily. A boy whose leg was bent at the wrong angle stared at it with mild curiosity, like a puzzle missing a piece. When the ambulance arrived, the sirens wailed, but the sound felt wrong, thin and embarrassed, as though even the sirens knew they were overreacting. Later, one of the paramedics would say, it was like they already knew it would be okay. And that was the problem. In Derry, Maine, fear had always been loud. It screamed in drains and whispered in bedrooms and giggled behind red balloons. Fear had rules. Fear had teeth. Hope did not. Hope arrived quietly, like a woman sitting beside you on a bus, her coat brushing your sleeve, her voice low and warm as she said, "You can rest now." Deep beneath the town, where old water ran black and slow, something ancient stirred and felt its food disappearing. And for the first time in a very long life, it was afraid. Mike Hanlon noticed the change on a Wednesday. He noticed it the way you notice a smell in a room you've been in all your life, not because it suddenly appears, but because one day it does not go away. The Derry Public Library was quiet in its usual way. The soft hum of fluorescent lights, the distant cough of the radiator, and the papery sigh of pages turning. Mike had spent decades surrounded by quiet, and he trusted it the way some men trusted guns or God. This quiet was different. It pressed. A woman sat at one of the long oak tables near the local history section. Mike did not remember seeing her come in, which was odd. He remembered everyone who came into the library. Derry trained you that way. She wore a pale gray sweater and a dark skirt, sensible shoes. Her hair was brown and pulled back loosely, already slipping free around the temples. She could have been anyone's sister, anyone's nurse, anyone's favorite teacher from 5th grade. She smiled at him when he passed, not wide, not forced, just enough. Mike felt a brief, inexplicable urge to sit down and tell her about the headache that had been nagging him since morning. He walked faster instead. At the reference desk, Beverly Marsh's old voice echoed in his memory. "If it feels friendly, Mike, run." He opened the newspaper, the Derry News, October 24th, and froze. No crimes, no accidents, no missing persons. That had never happened before, not even once. Derry always bled a little. It was like a tax the town paid to keep breathing. The woman's chair scraped softly against the floor. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was warm, not sweet, warm, like soup left on the stove just long enough. "Yes," Mike replied. "I'm looking for records about cycles." Something tightened behind his eyes. "What kind of cycles?" She considered this, as if searching for the right word in a language she did not quite speak. "The kind that hurt people," she said gently. "But stop." Mike swallowed. "That's fairly specific." She smiled again, apologetic this time. "I'm sorry. I'm not very good at explaining myself." That urge returned, the desire to reassure her, to tell her it was okay, that there was no rush, no danger. That urge terrified him. "I'm Mike," he said, because politeness was a reflex you did not unlearn easily. "I know," she said. The word fell between them and lay there. She glanced around the library, her eyes lingering on the shelves of old newspapers, the photographs of parades and fires and floods. Her gaze softened. "This place remembers pain very well," she said. "Too well." Mike felt suddenly cold. "And you are?" "Oh," she seemed almost embarrassed. "People call me different things, but you can call me Evelyn if you like." Evelyn. The name slid into his thoughts and settled there comfortably, like furniture that had always belonged. "What brings you to Derry, Evelyn?" She met his eyes then, really met them, and for a heartbeat Mike felt seen in a way that made his chest ache. "I heard someone here was hurting," she said. "I help with that." Beneath the library, far below the pipes and foundations and forgotten bones, something vast shifted restlessly. In the storm drains, water rippled without a cause. A memory of laughter, high and cruel, curdled into silence. And in the dark, where fear had always been king, it whispered a word it had never needed before. Mine. By Friday, the Derry had stopped flinching. Mike Hanlon noticed it in small ways first, the kind of details you'd miss if you were not trained by years of living in a bad place that pretended to be a good one. A man slipped on the courthouse steps and cracked his head. He lay there bleeding, staring up at the sky with mild interest until help arrived. No shouting, no cursing, no fear. At Shaw's Market, a woman discovered her wallet was missing and simply shrugged, as if money were a concept she'd recently outgrown. "It'll turn up," she said, smiling at the cashier. "Things always do." Always. That word followed Mike like a shadow. In the afternoons, children played closer to the storm drains than they ever had before. They sat on the concrete edges, swinging their legs, dropping pebbles into the dark water below. When Mike shouted at them to move away, they obeyed, but without urgency, without the instinctive recoil that had once lived in their bones. One boy looked up at him and asked, honestly puzzled, "Why?" Mike did not have an answer that would not sound insane. He dreamed of balloons that night, and not red ones, clear ones, transparent as soap bubbles. Inside each floated a faint, warm light. They drifted through the streets of Derry, bumping gently into houses, slipping through windows, settling beside beds. No screams followed, only sighs. Mike woke with his heart pounding, sheets damp with sweat. For a moment, just a moment, he felt the pull of it, the relief, the thought that maybe the town was finally healing. Then he remembered history. History never healed. It scabbed. Evelyn returned to the library every day, always mid-morning, always the same table. She never checked out books. She talked instead, to grieving mothers, to men with trembling hands and nowhere to put them, to teenagers who stared at their phones like they were waiting for permission to exist. She listened. That was her greatest talent. Mike watched her through the stacks, a knot tightening in his gut. People left her table lighter, straighter, smiling in a way that looked peaceful but wrong, like mannequins arranged too carefully. One afternoon, he overheard her speaking to a young woman whose eyes were red-rimmed and hollow. "I do not know how much longer I can do this," the woman whispered. Evelyn reached across the table and touched her hand. "You do not have to," she said softly. "Not right now. Just rest." The woman's shoulders sagged. Relief washed over her face so fast it was almost frightening. "What if it never gets better?" she asked. Evelyn's smile did not falter. "Then you won't not have to keep hoping," she said. The woman nodded, tears slipping free. Not sharp tears, not breaking tears. Easy ones. Mike stepped forward. "That's enough." Both women looked up. Evelyn's eyes held no anger, only mild surprise. "Is it?" she asked. "You're telling people to give up," Mike said. His voice shook despite himself. "You're telling them to stop fighting." "I'm telling them they're tired," Evelyn replied, "and that it's okay." Behind her, the local history shelves loomed, decades of disasters neatly cataloged. Fires, murders, floods, missing children. Derry's autobiography. "Nothing comes free in this town," Mike said. Evelyn glanced at the shelves, then back to him. "Fear is very expensive," she said. "I'm offering a cheaper alternative." For a heartbeat, Mike imagined what it would be like to accept that offer, to stop remembering, to stop watching. The thought felt warm. He hated it. Deep underground, Pennywise felt the hunger gnawing at it like acid. The fear had gone thin, not vanished, but diluted, watered down by something softer, something gentler. The town still dreamed, but the dreams had lost their edges. It crept through the drains, shifting shape restlessly. Clown, a spider, a rotting child, a screaming bird. And none of it sparked the old response, the no sharp spike of terror, the no delicious panic, only calm. It sensed her then, not fear-scented, but not prey. She was like a blanket laid over a wound, warm enough to hide the bleeding. She is stealing, it realized. Rage bubbled up, hot and old. This town was its body, its cycle, its food. And she walked it freely. She feed on something it had never needed before. Hope. For the first time in centuries, Pennywise understood a new emotion. Jealousy. That night, the drains echoed with laughter again. Not playful, and not hungry. Angry. The children sitting near the culvert on Nybald Street heard it and paused mid-game. They listened, heads tilted. One girl frowned. "That sounds rude," she said. They gathered their things and went home, unhurried. Below them, in the dark, Pennywise screamed, and no one was afraid. On Sunday morning, Derry overslept. Church bells rang at 9 and echoed unanswered through empty streets. Pastor Weiler stood alone in the First Baptist Church, his sermon notes trembling slightly in his hands. and felt a curious, soothing certainty settle into his chest.
"It's all right," the feeling said. "They do not need this anymore." He closed his Bible and went home. By noon, 3 separate 911 calls went unanswered, not because the lines were down, but because the dispatchers had simply forgotten to pick up. They sat at their desks, sipping coffee, staring at nothing in particular, wrapped in a shared sense that urgency was a young man's disease, and they had aged out of it. Mike Hanlon drove through town with the radio on, hoping, absurdly, for bad news. Nothing. The announcer's voice was slow, almost tender. Traffic updates were unnecessary. Weather reports promised mildness. A public service commanded listeners to take care of themselves, and then played too long, fading into static that sounded suspiciously like breathing. Mike turned it off. Evelyn stood at the edge of the barrens that afternoon. The grass there was brown and flattened, the earth packed hard by years of running feet and screaming mouths. It was a place that remembered violence even when no one else wanted to. She closed her eyes. The barrens sighed. It was not a sound exactly, more a release. The air grew warmer. The shadows softened, pulling back like animals that had decided not to bite after all. Evelyn knelt and pressed her palm into the dirt. "You do not have to hold it anymore," she whispered. Something deep beneath the ground recoiled. Pennywise rose from the drain behind the old ironworks in a shape it had not worn in decades. Not the clown, not the spider, but something tall and gray and vaguely human, with too many joints and a face that could not settle on an expression. The barons had always answered it. Today, they did not. It felt resistance, not strength, not defense. Indifference. That was worse. "She is unmaking the game," it hissed into the dirt. "There must be rules. There must be fear." The earth did not reply. For the first time since crashing into this dimension, Pennywise felt small. Evelyn sensed him before he reached her. She did not turn when the ground behind her cracked and something enormous unfolded itself into the late afternoon light. "I wondered when you'd come," she said calmly. Pennywise's voice rolled across the barrens like distant thunder layered with laughter. "You feed on what is mine." Evelyn rose slowly, brushing dirt from her skirt. She turned then, and Pennywise hesitated. She was not afraid, not even a little. "I feed on what's left behind," she said. "After you're done." The creature loomed, shadows folding and unfolding across its impossible body. "They are my children," Evelyn smiled sadly. "You eat children. They grow stronger through fear," it snapped. "They fight. They survive." "Some do," she agreed. "Most just break quietly." The wind stirred. Grass leaned away from Pennywise and toward her. "You make them weak," it said. "I let them rest." "You end them." "I preserve them." Pennywise laughed, a sound full of old cruelty. "You think you are kinder than I am?" Evelyn looked at it then with something like pity. "I do not need them to scream," she said. "That's the difference." The laughter stopped. Pennywise struck. The attack was sudden, furious, a storm of forms. Teeth, Claws, eyes, memories torn loose and hurled like knives. The barrens darkened. The sky pressed low. Evelyn did not flee. She stepped forward, and for the first time in its existence, Pennywise felt something give. Not flesh, meaning. Every shape it wore softened. Every horror lost its edge, like a story told too many times to someone who no longer believed. The monstrous bird dissolved into mist. The wolf sagged into shadow. The clown's grin trembled. Evelyn touched Pennywise's arm. It screamed, not in pain, in loss. Fear drained out of it like blood from an opened vein, not vanishing, but slowing, thinning, growing dull. "You do not belong here," Pennywise snarled weakly. Evelyn shook her head. "I belong everywhere people are tired." She leaned close, her voice barely more than breath. "And they are so tired." That night, Derry slept without dreams. No nightmares. No visions. No monsters under beds or whispers in drains. Children slept like stones. Adults slept like the dead. And in the dark beneath the town, Pennywise curled into itself, smaller than it had ever been, and understood something horrifying. If fear was no longer necessary, then neither was it. Mike Hanlon sat awake in his living room, staring at an old photograph of the Losers Club. He felt the town slipping, not into danger, but into something far worse. Comfort without choice, and peace without life. He whispered into the empty room, unsure who might hear. "Someone has to wake them up." Far below, a wounded god listened. The lesser monster Pennywise broke the rules on a Monday night. The rules were important. Rules were how the universe pretended it was not chaos. Pennywise had always followed them, not out of respect, but out of instinct. Cycles, seasons, feeding times, children first, fear before flesh. Breaking the rules felt like tearing a muscle that had never known it possessed. It rose into the town openly. No drains, no shadows, no disguises. Just after midnight, a thing taller than the telephone poles walked down Main Street, its shape unstable, flickering like a damaged film reel. Streetlights popped and died as it passed. Windows rattled. Still, no one screamed. People looked out from their houses, wrapped in blankets, eyes dull and curious. "Oh," one man said mildly, "that's new." Pennywise roared. The sound shattered glass. Cars' alarms screamed into life. A dog howled and bolted into the dark. Fear spiked, sharp, sudden, real. Pennywise drank it in and felt strength rush back like oxygen to drowning lungs. Yes, this. But even as terror bloomed, something else moved. Evelyn appeared at the corner of Main and Kansas Street, calm as a nurse entering a ward. She did not hurry. She did not shout. She simply raised one hand. "It's all right," she said, her voice carrying impossibly far. "You're safe." The fear collapsed, like a punctured lung. People blinked, confused. Someone laughed nervously. A child yawned. Pennywise staggered. "You see," Evelyn said, not unkindly,
You cannot help them anymore. Pennywise's voice scraped out of 1,000 mouths at once. You are killing them. I am keeping them, she replied. You make them heroes or corpses. I let them stay human. You let them fade. Her eyes hardened just a fraction. Fading is better than breaking. They faced each other across the empty street. Horror and comfort, teeth and warmth, the old and the new. Above them, clouds dragged themselves low across the moon like tired animals. You think you've won, Pennywise said. But you do not understand what you're feeding. Evelyn tilted her head. Hope. No, Pennywise said. Avoidance. Something flickered across her face then. Not fear. Doubt. Mike Hanlon watched from his porch, shotgun forgotten in his hands. He saw the truth in the space between them. Neither of these things cared about Derry. Not really. One fed on terror. The other fed on surrender. And surrender was winning. Mike stepped off the porch. The first child disappeared that night. No screams, no blood, no search parties. A boy named Jacob Trafton simply did not come home from a friend's house. His mother waited calmly at the kitchen table until morning. When the police arrived, she smiled at them. He'll come back when he's ready, she said. Evelyn stood behind her, one hand resting gently on the woman's shoulder. Mike felt something in him snap. Pennywise came to Mike that night, not as a clown, as a voice inside the walls. I cannot stop her alone. Mike laughed bitterly. You think I'd help you? I think you already are, Pennywise replied. You feel it too. I spent my life trying to kill you. And now you know why fear matters, the voice whispered. Fear means they still care. Mike closed his eyes. Images flooded him. Children who had fought back, who had screamed, who had lived because they were afraid enough to run. What do you want? Mike asked. I want you to remind them. Remind them of what? Of pain. Silence stretched. Then Mike said, You're asking me to hurt my own town. I'm asking you to save it. Mike thought of Evelyn's smile, of Jacob's empty bed, of a town slipping gently into nothing. All right, he said. Below the house, something ancient smiled with every mouth it had. The next morning, Derry woke to its first murder in weeks. It was messy, public, impossible to ignore. Blood on snow, a scream that did not stop halfway through. Evelyn arrived too late. She knelt beside the body, her hands shaking, not with grief, but with effort. Fear rippled outward, wild and contagious. People cried. People ran. People remembered. Evelyn looked up and met Mike's eyes across the crowd. For the first time, her smile was gone. You did this, she said. Mike did not deny it. So did you, he replied. And deep beneath the town, Pennywise laughed, not in joy, but in grim, exhausted relief. The war had begun. Mike learned the truth in a place where truth was never meant to survive. It happened beneath the town, below the pipes and bones and old runoff, in a space that did not belong to Derry or to Earth at all. Pennywise took him there without ceremony. No spinning lights, no gentle descent. One moment, Mike was standing in his basement, the smell of old books and dust thick in the air. And the next, he was elsewhere. There was no ground. There was no sky. There was only a vast, slow-turning dark, threaded with distant points of color that might have been stars, or might have been eyes. Mike felt no weight, no breath, no heartbeat. "Do not try to understand this place," Pennywise said. "Not with words, but with pressure. Just listen." Something moved, a presence immense, patient, warm, and familiar. Evelyn stepped forward out of the nothingness. She looked the same sweater, same soft expression. But here, in the place between meanings, Mike could see what Derry could not. Her outline blurred at the edges, unraveling into vast, layered shapes, rings within rings, slow spirals of pale light and deeper shadow. Where Pennywise radiated angles and hunger, she radiated gravity. Not the pull that drags things down, but the pull that makes them stop moving at all. "You should not have brought him," Evelyn said gently. "He deserves to know," Pennywise replied. Mike found his voice by force of will. "What are you?" Evelyn looked at him for a long moment, and then she sighed. "I am his sister," she said. The word echoed, not in sound, but in consequence. The Macroverse Pennywise unfolded the memory for him, not images, scale. Before Earth, before fear had names, before hunger learned how to sharpen itself. There were two of them, born not as creatures, but as functions. Pennywise. It was convergence, compression, terror that forced life to react, adapt, survive. Evelyn was the opposite. Release. She was entropy made kind. Where Pennywise drove systems forward through fear, she allowed them to settle, to rest, to stop struggling against the inevitable. "She stayed behind," Pennywise said, when the others moved on. "To tend," Evelyn corrected. "To soothe what you broke. You devour. And you torture," she replied calmly. Mike felt sick. "You're not good," he said. Evelyn smiled sadly. "Neither is he. That's the lie you tell yourselves, that horror must be cruel to be evil." "This place was already dying," Evelyn continued. "You know that. Cycles of pain. Children forced to become brave too early. You call that growth?" "It's survival," Mike snapped. "At what cost?" she asked. She gestured, and Mike saw it. Generations of trauma stacked like sediment, every scream feeding Pennywise, every victory leaving scars. "I came to end the cycle," Evelyn said. "Not by force, by consent." "You came to starve me," Pennywise growled. Mike's voice shook. "What happens after that?" Evelyn hesitated. Just a second too long. Pennywise surged, reality warping around its rage. "They fade," it spat. "Slowly, quietly. No stories, no heroes, no tower.
Evelyn did not deny it. "Stories are pain shaped into meaning," she said. "Why must meaning hurt?" Mike understood then. She was not saving Derry. She was ending it. Not with fire or blood, but with comfort so complete that nothing new could ever grow again. A town preserved in emotional amber. A mercy killing stretched across generations. "You can't not win," Mike said hoarsely. "Not both of you." Evelyn looked at him with genuine affection. "No," she said, "but you can choose which wound you live with." She turned to her brother. "Step aside," she said. "Let them rest." Pennywise loomed, vast and fractured. "If I do," it said, "they will forget fear." "Yes." "And if they forget fear," it continued, "they will forget hope, too." Evelyn's smile faltered. Mike stepped forward. "You're wrong," he said. Both entities turned to him. "Hope is not the absence of fear," Mike said. "It's what you do while you're afraid." Evelyn studied him. "And what if they're too tired for that?" "Then that's their choice," Mike said. "Not yours." For the first time, Evelyn looked uncertain. And in that uncertainty, something ancient shifted. Far away, beyond both of them, something vast and vertical stirred. The dark tower noticed. Evelyn looked up, suddenly tense. "You've marked this place," she said to Pennywise. "You always do." "And you've overreached," he replied. The Macroverse trembled. Evelyn stepped back, not in fear, but in calculation. "This is not over," she said to Mike. "You will beg for me again when the pain becomes too much." She reached out and touched Pennywise's essence, not gently. "You always leave scars," she whispered. "I leave silence." Then she was gone. Mike collapsed back into his basement, gasping. Above him, Derry screamed again. Somewhere, someone was afraid. And deep underground, Pennywise whispered, not triumphantly, but wearily, "She will return." Mike knew it too, because the town was awake now, and waking always hurts. The night Evelyn returned, Derry remembered her. Not consciously, not with words, but windows glowed warmer. Pain softened at the edges. Old people slept without waking. Children stopped crying in their dreams and did not know why. Hope came back quietly, and Pennywise began to die. It did not happen all at once. That was the cruelty of it. Fear still existed, murders, accidents, the usual human disasters, but it had lost its flavor. Fear now passed through people without rooting itself. It no longer fermented into stories. It no longer grew teeth. Pennywise felt hunger like rot. "She's learning," it told Mike from beneath the town. "She's learned how to feed without touching them." Mike sat alone in the library, surrounded by journals no one would ever read again. "Then stop her." "I can't not," Pennywise admitted. That word, "can't not," was new. Evelyn revealed herself on a Wednesday afternoon at the elementary school. No theatrics, no light from the sky. She simply stood in the hallway while children passed her,
smiling politely, feeling inexplicably safe. A teacher noticed her first. "Can I help you?" Evelyn touched her arm. The woman's shoulders sagged. Years of exhaustion poured out of her like water from a cracked cup.
"You're doing fine," Evelyn said. The teacher began to cry, not loudly, all with relief. By nightfall, half the town had felt her, and by morning, almost all of it had. People stopped locking their doors. They stopped arguing. They stopped wanting. The birth rates dropped, and so did suicides, and so did ambition. The town became gentle and stagnant. Mike went underground one last time. Pennywise waited for him, smaller than ever, no longer able to hold a shape for more than a few seconds. "You're fading," Mike said. "So are they," Pennywise replied. "Just slower." "What happens if you die?" Pennywise considered. "Then fear will find other forms. It always does. But this place," it gestured weakly upward, "this place will not survive hope without contrast." Mike swallowed. "You're saying you're necessary?" "I am saying I am honest." Mike laughed hollowly. "You kill kids?" "Yes," Pennywise said. "And she kills futures." Silence stretched. "What do we do?" Mike asked. Pennywise looked at him, not as prey, and not as enemy, as a collaborator. "You finish it," it said, "the way humans always do." They confronted Evelyn at the Barrens. The place was almost unrecognizable, grass lush, air warm, the ground soft as memory. Evelyn stood at the center, eyes closed, drinking deeply. She opened them when Mike approached. "You came back," she said. "Good. I was hoping you would." Pennywise rose beside him, barely holding together. "You're ending them," Mike said. "You do not get to decide that." Evelyn's voice was tired now. "They already decided. Every day they chose comfort over pain. I just listened." "You removed the cost," Mike said. "Choice without cost is not choice. It's sedation." Pennywise added softly, "You're afraid of what they might become if they suffer." Evelyn flinched. For the first time, she looked old. "I stayed," she said, "when the others moved on. I watched civilizations burn themselves raw on meaning. I wanted to stop that." "And you did," Mike said, "by stopping them." She looked at Pennywise. "You always did love the knife edge." "And you always did love the cage," Pennywise replied. The Macroverse answered then, not with words, with pressure. The dark tower loomed, not visible, but inevitable. A reminder that existence required tension, that stories without struggle collapsed inward. Evelyn screamed, not in pain, in understanding. "They will not survive this," she said desperately. "Take it back. Take the fear back." Pennywise laughed weakly. "I can't not anymore." Mike stepped forward. "I can," he said. Both of them stared at him. "You're human," Evelyn said. "You'll die." "We all do," Mike replied. "That's the point." Mike became the wound, not a monster, not a god, a memory. He told the town the truth, not all at once, and not cleanly, through stories, through books, through fear that came from knowing comfort could be stolen. He exposed Evelyn, and not as evil, as final. People felt fear again, not of death, but of ending. Hope recoiled. Evelyn starved. She screamed as she unraveled, her form dissolving back into the Macroverse. "This pain is on you," she told Mike as she vanished. "They will curse you for it." Mike nodded. "They already do." Pennywise watched her go, and then Pennywise died too, not slain, not banished, simply unnecessary. Fear returned to its natural place inside people, no longer outsourced, no longer fed. The clown dissolved. The spider collapsed. The god faded. Before it was gone, Pennywise whispered to Mike, "Thank you for reminding them." Mike felt something lift. Years later, Derry still existed. Not peacefully, but alive. Children were afraid again. They ran. They fought. They dreamed. Mike Hanlon died quietly in his sleep, unknown outside the town. No statue, no story. Just a scar in the shape of a man who chose pain over silence. And somewhere far beyond, two ancient functions drifted apart, one into myth, one into forgetting. Hope survived. So did fear. And humanity, bleeding, screaming, stubborn humanity, kept going. Which was the most horrifying thing of all. Just slightly. "Yes," she said simply. And then the town could finally sleep.